What's up everybody, my name is Elliott and I bought Tavarish's Maserati from Car Trek. At the end of Car Trek Season 2, Tavarish agreed to sell this car to an appraiser for just $5,000. However, after the appraiser drove the car for about 5 minutes, he immediately realized his mistake, which led Tyler Hoover to broker a deal for me to buy the car. Only, I hadn't seen the show yet, and I was buying this car sight unseen. Regardless, when this car showed up, I immediately fell in love, despite its condition. Now, I know what you guys are probably thinking. Who the hell am I, and why should you care? Well, I actually need your help in determining what to do with this car. But let's take a look at how it is first, and I think you'll see what I mean. Now, this car started life as a 2003 Maserati Coupe GT. Now, the GT portion of that is what's important, because it means this car is equipped with an actual 6-speed manual. An overwhelming majority of these cars were made with something Maserati calls a cambio corsa transmission, which is Maserati's way of describing their unreliable single-clutch F1 style flappy paddle transmission. So the fact that this car is a GT makes it a pretty rare bird. So rare, in fact, that they only made 13 in this exact color combination and transmission combination. At some point in its life, Tavarish got a hold of it and made it a knockoff race car, which is what some people would call a tribute car. Now, what this car is knocking off is called a Maserati Trofeo Coupe. The Trofeo series is an Italian single manufacturer racing series made for factory modified versions of this car. And at first glance, you'll see that this car really does a good job of looking like a Trofeo car. That is, until you start looking a little bit closer at it. Now remember, this car is essentially just a show prop, so from 20 feet away, it's visually striking. Heck, even from 5 feet away, the car looks pretty good. The overall loud Trofeo theme and race wrap do a very, very effective job of hiding this car's actual condition. And most of its visual flaws are isolated to the condition of the wrap. Even that famous scene in episode 1 of Car Trek where Tavarish is literally taking a sledgehammer to the inside of the fender well here isn't visible. The car looks great. I get a ton of compliments while driving it, and so I know it looks good enough from at least a stoplight's distance away, and that's all that really matters. Once you pop the hood, however, you kind of start to get the feeling that this car may have had a hard life. Under here, you can see a much dirtier and more used engine bay than you typically would in one of these cars. It's missing some covers to hide these wires and unsightly bits, and it's been lovingly doused in fire extinguisher powder, which persists no matter how much I've cleaned it. Thank you, Tavarish. The interior of this car is an entirely different story. At some point in this car's life, someone decided to remove the center console entirely and replace it with what I can only call a leather playmat. The shift knob is worn and gross, the leather is dirty even though I've cleaned it, the headliner is missing, the third brake light has no bezel, so it's just sliding around back there. This radio isn't mounted at all, it's just held in place by more faux leather. The factory buttons that do remain in this car are suffering from the sticky buttons that all Italian cars get eventually. The dashboard isn't connected to anything. I could go on and on. But luckily, this car's visually striking exterior and amazing engine note really make me forget about everything that's going on in here. Speaking of engine sound, I gotta get ready. Ready. Yeah, you just gotta try to ignore those hazards. The car thinks it's actively being stolen, so just one of those things. Oh, also got a really bad tire rub because these wheels and tires do not fit. All right, out on the road now in the cheapest Maserati Coupe in the USA. And at $5,000, I'm actually betting that it's the cheapest Maserati Coupe in the world. Driving this car is an absolute circus. And no, not just because the interior is a joke, but it's loud, it's bumpy, the steering is slightly off center, the oil pressure gauge is reading 0, which is concerning in any car, but especially in an Italian car. The clutch engagement is right at the top of the pedal travel, just like Tavarish said during Car Trek, which means this clutch is toasted. And you can imagine it didn't get any better since filming. You have to be very deliberate with your gear selections or else it just won't go into gear. But it's just amazing. I can't explain the sensation that I get from driving this car. And no, it's not just because I know Tavarish has been in this seat and sweated in it. I have gotten way more attention in this car than I have in any Ferrari or Lamborghini that I've ever driven. And because of this car in stock form looks so plain Jane, the fact that this one says Maserati huge on the side, everyone instantly kind of gets excited about it and knows what it is. Now, as I mentioned, those hazards flash because the car thinks it's being stolen, so it's flashing some sort of trouble code, but I have no way of turning it off because that interior piece is missing entirely. So occasionally, I just look like a jackass driving down the road with my flashers on in a car that already screams, "Look at me." The people that like it, love it. The people who don't get it, hate it even more. The clutch is absolutely done, and in a high gear like this, if you give it some throttle, yeah, you can induce some slip, and that is a very gut-churning feeling in any vehicle, let alone an expensive Italian vehicle. Needless to say, this clutch will be being replaced at a cost that will almost certainly exceed the purchase price of this vehicle, but it's necessary to keep this thing on the road because this thing's borderline undrivable with the clutch the way it is. I would check my rear view mirror, but it's gone. But from this rear view mirror, it looks like I'm just driving a race car. It's got a wing, you see some of the graphics on the haunches. It's just exciting. And the fact that this thing's more or less straight piped, you really get the full experience of that Italian V8 screaming through the gears. At least when the clutch isn't slipping. Oh, there's my rubbing. Oh. But if you could look past the clutch, this car's got it where it counts. The engine sounds, oh, so good. And it redlines at 7,500 RPMs. That is so high for a V8. And you can tell this thing's got a lot of soul left in it. And this is why people buy Italian cars. But a lot of this is why they tell you not to buy cheap ones. I could definitely see why the appraiser gave up on this, but for me, this is perfect. It's my first exotic. It needs a little bit of work, but it's got YouTube pedigree. And yeah, Tavarish sweated in this seat. Heck, Tavarish kind of made this car the way it is. But now it's my turn, and I couldn't be more excited about it. So there you have it, guys. This is my new Maserati Coupe GT. It's got a lot of problems, but it's also got a lot of soul and a lot of fire left in it. And that is where you guys come in. I need your help deciding which direction to go with this car. Do I continue down this race car theme, or do I try to convert it back to as close to stock as I possibly can? No matter which direction I decide to go, I am over the moon about the possibilities that this thing has. So be sure to let me know in the comments what you think. And if you haven't already, absolutely smash your face into the subscribe button. It should be somewhere, where it normally is. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. My name is Elliott. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, do all the other normal YouTube stuff, and I will see you on the next video. One of these days, I'm going to be behind a cop who's like somehow also a Maserati tech. This car is going to flash the hazards in the same way that it is, and he's going to look at that and say, oh my gosh, that's the Maserati code for I'm being stolen, and I'm going to get pulled over. It's a very specific scenario, but it could happen.